Alright, what's up guys? Brand new deck profile. As you know, Gravekeepers, their main boss monster is a fusion monster, and of course with Master Rule 5, that becomes a lot easier to summon. A huge problem in Gravekeepers was the fact that you would summon sometimes a Spiritualist, you would summon it right in your extra monster zone, and then you were basically stuck with that one monster because you couldn't get rid of him. You had to make a link monster. It was a really frustrating situation. But now, since you can summon them in the main monster zone, you can just summon 2 or 3 right underneath, and you don't have to worry about any of those other unfortunate troubles. But anyways, let's get started with the deck profile. First, just to start off, we play 3 copies of Gravekeeper's Recruiter. This card is very good in the deck, just because when it gets sent to the graveyard, it's a mandatory effect. You can... It's not you can, you know, it's a mandatory effect, so... you have the ability to search a Gravekeeper monster with 1500 or less defense, which is a good amount of monsters, good enough amount that it's useful. Fix that there. Yeah, very good for searching. The only problem with it is it's a level 3 and it's a little annoying with Headman, but other than that, it's a really good card. Then we play 1 copy of Gravekeeper's Descendant. This card basically tribute a Gravekeeper and then pop a card. Again, very useful, just good spot removal. Then we play 3 copies of Gravekeeper's Headman, and this is the one I was talking about before. When this card is normal summoned, you can when it's normal or special summoned, you can target a level 4, exactly level 4, not level 4 or lower, Gravekeeper monster, and then special summon that monster. Again, kind of frustrating that it has to be a level 4. But it is still extremely useful because it special summons monsters, and of course, it's not affected by Necrovally. Then we play 3 copies of Spiritualist. This is like your main fusion monster. The benefit with this monster is that it's basically like a polymerization and a monster material built in one. So you just normal summon this, and you can just fusion summon using cards out of your hand or anything you need. But it's very good for that. Summons quick Spiritualists. Very good. Then we play, of course, 3 Gravekeeper's Commandants. This is like your extra copy of Terraforming. It helps you get to Necrovally. It's one I love monsters that allow you to discard themselves to search a field spell. I think that's one of the best field spell retrieval options available. I wish they did that with more field spells because it's very convenient all the way around. Then we play 1 copy of Gravekeeper's Steel. This card, again, very useful. It's good in the grind game. It's not something you want to see early on. It lets you target 2 Gravekeeper monsters and return them to your hand, so it's a +1. Like I said, it's kind of something you want to see later in the duel, not right away. Otherwise, I'd be playing 3 copies, of course. Then we play 3 copies of Hidden Temples of the Necrovally. This card, basically, if you control a Gravekeeper monster in Necrovally, the field spell, your opponent cannot special summon. I mean, basically, no player can special summon monsters except for Gravekeeper monsters, which again is very useful. But the only issue with this is if Necrovally, where that Gravekeeper monster is not on the field, this card automatically gets destroyed, which is a little dangerous. Sometimes you lose more resources than you really should. Then we play 3 copies of Necrovally Throne. This card lets you do one of 2 things. It either lets you add a Gravekeeper monster from your deck to your hand. It's not 1500 or less, it's literally any Gravekeeper monster. Or it can give you an extra normal summon of a Gravekeeper monster, which again is rather useful. It depends. Both effects are useful. Most of 99% of, not 99, but 90% of the time you'll be using the first effect. But there have been cases, many cases, where you can use the second effect. Then we play 3 copies of Royal Tribute. This card is just too good not to play, honestly. So basically, you look at your opponent's hand. If you have Necrovally in the field, you look at your opponent's hand and discard all the monsters in their hand, and in both players' hands. But it's very useful. And technically, you don't look at their hand. You're not allowed to, according to the new rules. But it's very difficult for them to lie to you, because if you activate this and they were supposed to discard their entire hand, and they don't discard their entire, and then basically they don't discard their entire hand, you know, you're gonna know if they have a bunch of monsters the following turn. But yeah, it helps you get rid of hand traps. If you activate this the same turn, you're not gonna get hand trapped at all, which is really good. Then we've got Necrovally. This is like the heart and soul of the deck. I think this card is actually better now than it's ever been, because it destroys Eldritch. I mean, it really does. It really does destroy this deck. They can't banish from the graveyard, and they can't move cards from the graveyard. So this deck, which is, this card I'm holding right now at the time of recording this video, it's like $110. This whole deck gets destroyed by Necrovally. Completely destroyed. And of course, Necrovally, you can't move stuff out of the graveyard, you can't banish cards out of the graveyard. It's very, very good for that. It's very good against the meta right now. It beats Orcust, it beats Eldritch, like I said before. And Eldritch, a lot of people are saying, is one of the best decks right now. But yeah, this card is just disgusting. It's a floodgate field spell. It powers up all of your monsters, and it gives you a bunch of other things, like the ability to stop special summons, the ability to stop a bunch of other things. And I mean, your opponent can't even call by the grave you. That's how deep this runs. They can't use call by the grave against you because they can't banish things out of the graveyard. They can't use DD Crow against you because they can't. It's not possible. They can't banish cards out of the graveyard. This card just randomly shuts down such a large percentage of just the meta game in general. They can summon from the graveyard. They can't return things. It's one of the best field spells there are. Then we play one copy of Terraforming, just in case we don't get to we really want to get to it. Then we play one copy of Set Rotation, again very useful, just to get the field spells. And then we play one copy of Mystic Mind. This is the best possible field spell you can play that's not Necrovally. You can also play Pseudo Space, just to copy Necrovally's effect out of the graveyard if you don't want to play Mystic Mind. Then we play, this is like my my personal favorite option in this deck, which is the Ultra Polymerization. This card, if you don't know, you pay 2,000 life points. Your opponent can't respond to this fusion summon. You fuse 2 monsters on the field into obviously whatever you want. But the awesome effect, and of course they can't respond, the awesome effect with this card is that you can banish this card from your graveyard, target that fusion monster, and then special summon both of those materials, and their effects are negated, and their effects are negated basically, and their effects are negated, and their attack is 0. But the awesome thing about it is that it just gives you free resources out of nowhere, which I really like. It's very, very good in the longer parts of the game. Because you can go on into all types of link monsters afterwards, and again, it's basically just 2 free monsters right afterwards. I've liked it very much in this deck. Then we play 3 copies of the Pot of Extravagance. This is your main draw spell. We don't draw at all in this deck, other than Pot of Extravagance. There are no other draw cards. There's no natural draw cards within the archetype that I can remember. I think there might be like one of those tribute monsters, but for the most part, you're just searching. You're really not drawing a lot. And on top of really not drawing a whole lot, the extra deck, with the exception of really 3 monsters, is essentially irrelevant. You can just play doubles and triples, and it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's Pot of Extravagance. And we play Super Polymerization, very good against many decks in the meta right now. You can definitely figure out even better uses for it. But yeah, very, very good in the meta right now. And you have to remember, you're playing a fusion-based deck. So this card is never really dead, because you can always, like, let's say you're in battle phase, you attacked with 2 of your Gravekeeper monsters, your opponent has like 2,000 life points left, you activate Super Poly in battle phase, make a Spiritualist, make another attack. It's just, this card has so many different uses in this deck. So definitely, that is a 3 of. And of course, going second, it can help you break your opponent's board. Then we play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. It's the reason I like Infinite Impermanence over Ash Blossom, stuff like that, is because since we're playing 3 Royal Decrees, sometimes when you go first, and this is a deck where you want to go first. So, like, the reason you play hand traps and super poly and all this stuff is so you have you have various options when you are going second. But the problem with playing like Ash Blossom and stuff is sometimes when you go first, you end up activating Royal Decree and kind of discarding your own hand traps. So it's a little counterproductive. So I'd rather have Infinite Impermanence and just set it and just forget it. Just use it the following turn. Or I could just use it, during their turn if I'm going second. Last card we're playing is Imperial Tomb of Necrovally. This card is basically like Solemn Judgment within the archetype. But yeah, very good. So let's move on to the extra deck here. This is where the excitement happens. As I pick it up, we play 3 copies of Gravekeeper Supernaturalist. This card is very important within the archetype. It's kind of like the most recent support that the deck has gotten. It got no rarity bump, even though it was in the Megaton. It should have gotten a rarity bump, but it did not get a rarity bump. But anyway, this card protects Necrovally, it protects your Gravekeeper monsters, it creates a lock where itself and the Necrovally can't be destroyed, which is very good. But yeah, this card is incredibly useful within the deck. You sometimes can get 2 or 3 of them on the field at once. When you do that, it's game time. It's done. There's nothing your opponent can do. Then we play the Super Poly targets. We play Starving Venom, 2 darks, Predaplant ×3, which is 3 darks, Diplex or Chimera, because I hate Salamangrates, Draco Nether Soul Dragon. Zombies is a very good deck. You got to watch out for zombies. It's not a game out there. They're a serious deck. They're a field spell deck. They can destroy you. 1 Tornado Dragon, just in case we face a really back row heavy deck. A Cross Sheep, 2 Cross Sheeps. This is a really good card in the deck because you fusion summon a lot and get to summon your Gravekeeper monsters back if you don't have like Necrovally on field. Sometimes it can help you go into earlier plays. Wee Witch Apprentice, basically just darks, and Predaplant Verde Anaconda. This is another one of these Link 2s. It's very good because you can use it with the Super Polymerization. You can turn one of your opponent's monsters dark and then Super Poly them straight out of the deck. It's useful in that way. It's good for breaking boards and then you attack. 1 Boral Sword Dragon, and then I should be playing 2 of this card, which is Mech Crusader Avramax. It's a very, very difficult card to get rid of and deal with. But yeah, that's our last card. You can even replace the Boral Sword with another Mech Crusader Avramax. And maybe play like an IP Masquerena in this deck if you wanted to. But that is basically it. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. It took me a little while to make it here. But I think this deck is going to be very useful in Master Rule 5. Like I said, it's very good against a lot of decks in the meta. Like some of the decks that are projected to be the best, stuff like Eldritch, stuff like Adamancipators, stuff like Orcust, which just got its new monster. A lot of these decks that are forecasted to be one of the better decks, you know, they're going to have a hard time dealing with Necrovally. I mean, they really are. It's scoop, it's game time, it's over. There's nothing that they can do about Necrovally. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoy this video, please subscribe.